You know, the story of artificial intelligence, it isn't just about code and computers. It's really this epic 70-year saga. You got brilliant minds, you've got these crushing failures, and then, boom, a single moment that changes everything. So how on earth did we get here? Let's dive in.
It all boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful question. We're talking 1950, the legendary Alan Turing. He's not just thinking about basic calculators. He puts out this paper that dares to imagine a machine with a mind. And that right there, that was the spark for everything we now call AI.
And to answer his own question, he comes up with this test that's now super famous. The idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine you're texting someone. If you honestly can't tell if you're talking to a machine or a real person, well, the machine passes. It's considered intelligent. And that became the goalpost, the holy grail for the entire field, for decades.
Yeah, Turing's question really did light a fire. What came next was this incredible wave of optimism. Scientists genuinely believed that one of the biggest challenges in history could be solved. And not just solved, but solved fast.
So you've got Turing proposing the test in 1950. Then, in 56, we have the Dartmouth Conference. This is where they officially give the field its name, artificial intelligence. And this group of absolute legends in science, they get together and make this incredibly bold claim. They said they could basically create a thinking machine in just one summer. I mean, talk about confidence. Of course, they were a little off. It would end up taking closer to 70 years.
But that initial excitement, that optimism, it hit a brick wall, and fast. I mean, you have to remember, the computers back then were the size of rooms, they were unbelievably expensive, and just way too slow for the kind of complex thinking they were trying to achieve. The programs they built could only do one tiny, specific thing. The dream was still so far away.
Right, because when you don't make progress, what happens? Disappointment sets in. People start to doubt the whole idea. The excitement just fizzled out, the money dried up, and the entire field, it just entered this long, cold period we now call the AI winter.
And get this, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It happened twice. First in the 70s, the funding just vanishes, progress stops. Then it happens again in the 80s, same story. Governments, universities, they all pulled their support. Why? Because the scientists, for all their genius, just couldn't deliver on those huge promises they'd made. Everything just stopped.
You have to imagine what that felt like for the researchers who'd bet their entire careers on this idea. It really felt like it was over. It started to look like AI was just going to be another cool sci-fi idea, a fantasy that would just never happen in the real world.
But then, a little glimmer of hope. In the 80s, a new idea pops up called expert systems. The thinking here was different. Instead of trying to create a machine that thinks like a human from scratch, what if we could just capture the knowledge of a human expert, using a bunch of if this then that rules? And it worked. Banks, hospitals, big companies started using them. It was this practical, useful application of AI that was just enough to keep the whole dream from completely dying out.
Okay, so that small step, it was about to become a massive leap. The entire field was right on the edge of this revolutionary shift. A totally new way to think about building intelligence. And yeah, it was going to change everything.
And here is the absolute game changer, the pivot. The old way, the old AI, was all about programming with rules. You had to tell the computer exactly what to do. The new AI, this was different. Researchers realized, hey, what if instead of programming millions of rules, we just give the computer a ton of data and let it figure out the patterns for itself? That, right there, is machine learning. And that was the breakthrough.
And the first big whoa moment for this new approach? 1997. IBM's machine, Deep Blue, goes up against the world chess champion, Garry Kasparov, and wins. The world was just stunned. I mean, think about it. A machine had just beaten the best human mind at one of the most complex strategic games we've ever invented.
Okay, fast forward to 2011. Another IBM machine. This one's called Watson. It goes on the TV quiz show Jeopardy and just destroys the best human champions. Now, this was different from chess. This wasn't just about pure logic. This was about understanding language. The jokes, the puns, the weird phrasing. People were really starting to pay attention now.
But if you ask the experts, the real turning point, the one that blew the doors wide open, was a system called AlexNet in 2012. It was designed a bit like the neural networks in our own brains, and it could look at an image and identify what was in it, better than a human could. This was the proof. This showed everyone that deep learning, using these really complex, layered networks, was the key. This is how you unlock real AI.
And yeah, after 2012, things just went into hyperdrive. It was like all the different ingredients you need for an explosion suddenly came together at the exact same time. It was the perfect storm.
So what was in this perfect storm? Well, for one, you had big tech companies like Google and Facebook pouring billions of dollars into research. Two, the internet had become this massive, endless library of data for AIs to learn from. Three, computer hardware, the chips themselves, got way more powerful. And then the final piece of the puzzle came in 2017 from Google researchers. It was a new design, a new architecture called the Transformer, and it completely changed how AI understands language. It let the AI look at a whole sentence at once to get the context, instead of just word by word. Game changer.
And that perfect storm, it led us right here, to the climax of the story. This is the moment AI stopped being some weird thing in a lab and just walked out onto the main stage for everyone to see.
November 30th, 2022. You should probably remember that date. A research lab, OpenAI, puts its new chatbot out there for anyone to try, and I don't think even they knew what was about to happen next.
In 5 days, 1 million people had signed up. I mean, that kind of growth, that speed, it had never ever been seen before in the history of tech. Nothing even came close.
And it just kept going. 2 months later, it hits 100 million users. 100 million. To give you some perspective, a platform like Instagram took 2.5 years to get to that number. ChatGPT did it in 2 months. It literally became the fastest growing app ever.
That really says it all, doesn't it? This was the impact. For the very first time, millions of regular people, not just scientists, could sit down and have a real conversation with an incredibly powerful AI. It wasn't a movie anymore. It was here, it was real, and it could talk back to you.
And that brings us right up to today. We are living in what is probably the most important tech revolution since the internet itself. The pace is just insane. Even the experts have a hard time keeping up. It feels like every week there are new models, new tools, new things AI can do. This isn't just some tech trend. This is a fundamental shift, just like the internet was.
So what's the big lesson here, looking back at this whole 70-year journey? I think it's this. Progress is never a straight line. It's messy. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have these winters where everyone doubts you. But if you stick with it, the breakthrough eventually comes. And when it does, boy, does it change everything. Seriously, think about that. We are all living through this right now. This revolution isn't something that's just happening to us. We're all part of it. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with it?